Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. So I wanted to talk about a podcast topic that I had listened to earlier this week, and it was something I wanted to film a video about, and that is the 5 Dirty Bikers Motovlogging in 2021. And they kind of asked the question, hey, is motovlogging dead? And I find that kind of a fascinating topic because I've sort of thought about this over the duration that I've been doing it, which has been just over 3 years. My first motovlog was May 31st of 2018. This is my maiden-ish voyage. As you can see, I have 27.8 miles on it. I actually picked it up with 22 miles on it. Unfortunately, on my trip home, the GoPro just decided not to record anymore. So I've been doing this now for about 3 years and change. And I just started thinking back on it because when I was listening to that podcast, the thoughts going through my head was, what's different today than what was, 3 years ago? And I will say that it's not just because 3 years ago was when I got in it, but I genuinely think that 3 years ago was kind of the maybe heyday of motovlogging. So before I get too far into it, I do want to say thank you again to 5 Dirty Bikers for kind of giving me this topic to talk about. And if you don't follow their podcast or listen, I do suggest that you go and subscribe to their podcast because it's good stuff to listen to. I listen a lot on my way to and from work. But the reason why I kind of look back on that 3 year ago time and think that it was the heyday is, well, first of all, every trend on YouTube has its time. And I could kind of draw some parallels to maybe like the van lifers and things like that. The van lifers, there was a time when I was following a whole bunch of that sort of content. And then you watch those content creators go from organically living in some sort of home-built van. And I think when some of those channels start to grow in success, they naturally want to progress themselves. But there's also a weird part of like relatability that comes with that. So naturally, as these niches become mainstream and have their initial kind of burst, there is a lot of people that find their favorite motovloggers, and that because of the growth, it slowly becomes, I think, less of a thing. And that's just sort of how trends go in general. But one thing I will say, I was kind of looking back on it, and you look at the people that I watched at that time, and John Maxwell, I consider him a good friend. He is somebody who back then, I was looking at his channel, he had between 50 and 60,000 subscribers around that same time that I started motovlogging. And his real big come up had to do with the 2018 Softail release. So first of all, I'm going to say that motovlogging at that time had, in the Harley world especially, or cruiser world especially, had this kind of dual-sided thing going on where I think motovlogging was becoming kind of cool, but then you also had this Harley-Davidson drop of 8 new Softails for the 2018 model year, and there was just a whole lot to talk about in that world. So I think it just kind of opened a lot of people's eyes around the time that Harley was releasing all these bikes to some content creators who had already been doing it for a little while. And I think that just hit a sweet spot in the YouTube algorithm and grew a bunch of these channels in a relatively short period of time. And John Maxwell was one of those guys. I loved watching his growth. And heck, since then, now he's gone on to 200 some odd thousand subscribers, opened his own motorcycle shop. And YouTube for him it's a struggle to even keep up with the content because he's so busy doing the shop stuff. And I will say that, do I think that John could have had a successful shop without YouTube? For sure. But I do know that YouTube is a huge portion of why people trust him. Not very many shops can kind of start off from day one with a whole library of content that your customers can go to and have that feeling of a one-to-one interaction with a content creator. So that's one example of just somebody who kind of grew through that time, and I think I think we'll see him back on YouTube consistently in the near future. So then looking back at other content creators, what were other people doing around that same time? these are all people that I stumbled across around that same time period because I was shopping for my heritage and I was just heavily kind of looking at what people were producing out there for content. So I found Blockhead. At that time, Blockhead, he had somewhere around like 90,000 subscribers. He's now gone on and has like 300 some odd thousand subscribers. Bike and Bird was also somebody that I started watching around that time. He had about 10,000 subscribers and now he's up to 50,000. I think his channel will continue to grow and be a huge success for him. Laid Laws was another guy that, when I started shopping for this 2018 Heritage, his content on the Heritage was a huge inspiration as to me buying the bike. He had 35,000, now he's 135,000, so he's grown 100,000 subscribers. Sandoval, I actually found Sandoval's content, Adam's content, when he posted his video about him and Harley-Davidson, what had happened. It was right around the exact same time that I had just started motovlogging that I had found that video and started following his channel. And from that point, I think he was around like 60,000. Now he's at 175,000 or something around those lines. So he's had an absolute huge amount of growth since then. Blazers or Trailblazer got pretty jacked up. So I just think the landscape has changed significantly. I think that losing the new bikes in 2018, where you had this massive wave of Harley-Davidson drops, and then right after that you went into Indian coming up with the FTR, and you also had the Power Plus getting leaked shortly thereafter of the liquid cooled, which was going to be in the Challenger at that time. We didn't know what the bike was going to be called, and then the Challenger dropped. And honestly, I feel like since the Challenger dropped, the content in the motorcycle world just kind of went very heavily sponsored, and that's where I think some of like the death of motovlogging feeling kind of comes from, is that when we all sort of lost a lot of stuff to talk about, I just think the organic getting on the bike and having stuff to talk about dwindled a little bit, and then it was replaced by a very heavy dose of sponsored stuff. And I think that people just started to kind of feel like it went from being an organic experience of people getting on their bike, shooting whatever they wanted to talk about for that day, and just kind of becoming a lot of promotion. YouTube will reward what it will reward, good, bad, or indifferent, and then the community kind of just becomes whatever that landscape is. And that's kind of what I think you've seen in the last 3 years of motovlogging, is multiple things happening. So the perfect storm of motovlogging becoming trendy around the exact same time that there was a whole lot of stuff going on in the Harley-Davidson world with the new Softails coming out, and also a bunch of these creators kind of existing in that world that had already created a base at that time that the YouTube algorithm recognized and then further promoted. And then you just kind of had this spot that I feel like in the last year or so has changed only because of probably pandemic stuff and a lack of things to maybe talk about. I think having the Pan America and the Sportster S kind of drop, and the Chief was kind of a thing that was, in my opinion, sort of like a short-lived talking point on YouTube. I just think that those Softails, it was like immediately 8 new motorcycles to talk about on a very, very popular platform for Harley-Davidson. Again, I'm speaking on this stuff sort of in very general terms. I'm certainly not in a position where I think that I'm saying that I'm like the czar of motovlogging, like I know it all, because I certainly don't. I'm still small fry in comparison to a lot of other people in this world, and that's fine. I totally love my spot here and wouldn't change it for the world. I'm very proud of what it is I've built here on YouTube, and it's all because of the support of you guys watching the content. So I don't think motovlogging is dead. I think it's sleeping a little bit for the time being. While it's doing that, I think that there's a lot of content creators, the bigger content creators, that are still killing it. And there's still a bunch of other YouTube creators in the motovlogging space that are on the come up. So that's another part of it, is that it did get kind of saturated once it became popular. More people started doing it. It's the nature of it. And it just kind of gets full of a lot of people. So it's amazing to me, and I love when I go to these events and I meet people that are motovloggers, and it's like, no, I never saw your channel, never heard of you. And I think some people are kind of take offense to that. I love when people are like, oh, dude, I didn't even know you existed, because it's like, yeah, it reminds me this world is huge, and you're not really given anything. You have to get out there and earn it. And that's really what this YouTube thing is all about, is it can take years to earn that sort of respect. And if you get it overnight, great. Don't squander it, because it's something that a lot of people like myself work a lot of years to build up. So there's a trust that goes in between the content creator and the viewer. I don't get super worried about subscriber numbers. While I have a huge amount of respect for every one of my subscribers, I have to make the content that makes me feel good and keeps me interested. That's why I don't only do motorcycle content, because this YouTube experience is for you and it's for me, the creator. And when those two things marry together and you like my content, you subscribe or you don't. So as long as the creator is having fun and the viewers enjoy your content, that's kind of all the success of it all. So I think sometimes the creators start feeling like they're a prisoner of their subscribers. And to those people I say, I think you're kind of missing the point. This has got to be fun for you as much as it is for the people that are enjoying the content. So that's kind of my whole take on it. Motovlogging isn't dead. It's just napping for the time being, in my general opinion. But I think that it will have ebbs and flows like everything does in life. And for those of you that are aspiring motovloggers, get out there, start recording. It's awesome. I enjoy it. Everybody I've met out of this whole thing has been awesome. I've enjoyed meeting every subscriber I've met out there. It's been one of the most rewarding things I've done in my lifetime as far as professionally goes, is building this out. It's been awesome. So, guys, with that being said, thank you very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I'll see you guys next time.